Greetings once again, my friends, and welcome back to another Drak Vlogs about Luke Cage. So, we've got another 2 episodes in, we got 4 left after this, and crap just keeps getting heated up. So, a lot of people might notice if you've watched all the series all the way through, I made some predictions the last time around and thought that they were going to come through. Turns out I was completely wrong. And the thing in particular, so spoiler warning ahead, because I don't know if I can avoid it this time around, but I'm just going to go ahead and put the spoiler tag up. If you want to see these episodes, go watch them and then do this vlog later. So that being said, last time I made a prediction that instead of dealing with Cottonmouth, we were going to be dealing with Mariah now. And while that's still kind of true, Mariah isn't going anywhere. Mariah is still very much involved. There was one part of that I didn't think we were going to see so soon. Maybe like for the last couple of episodes, but I didn't think it was going to pan out that soon, and that was Diamondback. So the way that things go is at the very end of the last episode of the previous vlog, we actually get to see Luke Cage get shot, and Luke Cage and pretty much the Luke Cage story arc centers around this concept, because it is actually an interesting concept. A man with impenetrable skin just got shot. He has shrapnel in him. What do you do to get it out? You can't get it out. His skin is impenetrable. It's one of those things that they dealt with really, really, really well in Jessica Jones, where he gets mind controlled, and in order to knock him out, Jessica literally has to pelt him with a shotgun at point blank range in the head to get him knocked out, and even then causes I believe it was a subdural hematoma. There's bleeding in there, and they had to. It makes me cringe just thinking about it. They had to go in through his eye to drain it, because again, he has impenetrable skin aside from the orifices that are already there. You can use his mouth, you can use his nose, you can use his eyes, and that's it. Well, could use his butt, but I mean that's what I'm talking about. You have to go those routes. You can't perform open heart surgery on this guy. You can't open up his stomach. It's impenetrable. And so, like, it's a big deal in the comics as well as in the series. If he gets injured, like, how do you heal him? So a lot of the arc is based around that concept, and I like that, because I was wondering if this series was going to tackle something like that this early. I could see this happening in like a season 2 where, you know, he gets something stuck in there and now you have to get it out. But how do you get it out? But in this case, considering all the street warfare, it actually kind of made sense. Now, the other part that I don't think I made clear is that the bullet that pierced him, I think I was assuming that it was the Judas bullet that we'd heard about earlier in the series. Confirmed it is. And it actually exploded in his system. So, like, you know, where we saw the whole video of dude losing like half his body, it was like a Mortal Kombat fatality. For Luke, it wasn't that bad. It exploded in his system, and he has to deal with the fact that he can't get them out. So I'm going to try and cover the various arcs that we have going on here. Starting with Luke, obviously, because Luke is kind of the prevalent story, especially since in these 2 episodes, he's absent. He has no choice but to go underground. He's been shot, and he's sick. He's sick because of it. Like, he's got infection running through him. He can't take care of it. He's got Claire with him, but Claire can't get the things that are creating his infection out of his system. So he can't recover. So at that point, you have this interesting dilemma that you see both Claire and Luke go through, because, you know, Claire has to be able to help him, but Luke can't help. Luke doesn't know what happened to him. Luke doesn't understand the stuff that happened with his body. Even his wife, I'm guessing wife, yeah, I believe it was wife. Even Reva didn't entirely know what was going on in the system. And that's saying something, because later on in the episodes, in the arc, we find out she knew a lot more than maybe she let on. So at that point, you have that. issue, and Claire's actually having to go to the internet to research like similar characteristics, and so she gets the idea to go research animals, because maybe with the research that they were doing, that's where it came from. And she actually discovers that his cells are very similar to what they do with, or similar to what abalone do. And so she tries to do all this homework. Nothing's working. They can't get these bullets out. So her ultimate last option to suggest to Luke, and Luke isn't even entirely on board with it, is to, well, first of all, I'm getting ahead of myself. So they're dealing with the first gunshot. Yes, first gunshot. From a sniper. I mean, it was literally out of nowhere, and he has to go underground. However, we also have the whole Cottonmouth murder happen, and it's all being pinned on Luke. So then Detective Knight has to go out and look for him, and she does find him, but also finds the problems that he has right now. He has a sniper chasing him. And in turn, we actually find out it is Diamondback. But we also find out that Diamondback has a personal relationship with Luke. His name is Willis Stryker. I don't know all of the stuff around Luke Cage, so I'm not familiar with the name aside from the X-Men movies. But from what I can tell, different character. Willis Stryker, who has a relationship with Luke, a vengeful relationship with him, as in they used to be as close as brothers, and something happened between them, and now he has a vengeance streak against Luke, something fierce, and now he's like one of the most notorious mob bosses, at least in the Harlem area. It's kind of unclear, because like we're trying to measure the power of the crime families in New York, and since Luke Cage is entirely focused in Harlem, we're guessing in Harlem, because they do actually reference to the fact that downtown is not available. It belongs to the Chinese and the Japanese cartels, which is a reference to Daredevil. So at that point, we know that that's happening. We also know Kingpin is trying to run things. I actually found it funny that through trying to cover up Cottonmouth's death and the actual murderer, they actually bring in the one woman that went up with Luke on the first episode, because she refused to go up there alone, and basically said, well, I'm his personal hooker, and she's not, but she was forced to lie about it. And when Detective Knight starts to piece that together, who should show up but the Kingpin's lawyer? I found that very interesting. It was the Kingpin's lawyer. So that was a nice little nod to basically say, yeah, this guy's attached to so many crime families. It's insane. So anyway, back onto it. So we discovered that, he does have a relationship with Luke. Detective Knight actually has a little bit of a dealing with him, because she's trying to take care of the sniper and trying to get Luke to come in, because she knows that because of this whole sniper thing, Luke has an alibi. He can't be the guy. He can't be the murderer. And so she wants to prove that, not because of relationships or anything like that, but because she's a good... This series emphasizes she's a good cop. But through that meets Diamondback. And Diamondback is one effed up mofo. So much so that he actually almost, like, execution style kills her. And that actually sets off kind of her dealings in the next episode, where she has like a legit moment where things are no longer in her control, and it's sickening to her, and it's frustrating, and it's a really great character moment for Detective Knight. But anyway, so skipping forward a little bit, Luke and Diamondback eventually get at it in a movie theater, and they have it all out. So much so that Luke throws him so hard out of the movie theater, you're pretty sure he's got a dislocated shoulder or a broken spine, and yet he's still walking. And Diamondback is actually able to put in one more shot. So we have the first shot in his stomach and the second shot in his shoulder. This is 2 sets of shrapnel they just can't get out. And Luke could possibly die from them. This in turn leads to him being passed out in a garbage truck and having to basically make his way as quick as he can to Claire to see if they can get this problem fixed. And you feel for Luke's pain, especially since he's being pursued by the cops, if not as a suspect, as a potential witness. So everybody's on the lookout for him, which in turn actually leads into a run-in with the cops where he doesn't want to start anything up, but the cops give him no choice, and he actually gets caught on camera basically flinging them around, which, as you might imagine, doesn't look good to anybody. Even to the people who know why he did it, it doesn't look good. Tony Stark would come down and just smack him right upside the head and then get punched in the face, and it'd be a hilarious moment. So we have that moment, but then finally, now we're kind of caught up. Claire then makes the suggestion that she's found the doctor that did the operation. He's still around, and suggests that they need to go and see him. And the last episode, like, literally kind of ends with them going to his house. He gets to see that Luke is still alive. He actually thought Luke was dead. He thought the lab was trashed. He thought all of his research went up in smoke. And it turns out that the data drive that Riva was hiding actually still had all the data from their experiments in Seagate. So this is amazing for this doctor. He's literally lost nothing data-wise. He can continue on. But for the moment, it looks like he's dedicated to Luke Cage. He wants to try and help get the shrapnel out. And the episode literally ends with him only coming up with one solution, is that they basically have to weaken his body enough so that they actually can pierce his skin with a scalpel and get the stuff out. And the way that they decide to do this is with a vat of boiling acid. Oh, man. These shows just keep getting more and more painful, especially considering what Luke has to go through just to get healed. And right now, the Luke arc is probably the best part of the series, at least for me. But that's okay, because there's tons of other arcs going on there. I know that I'm bouncing between episodes, but there's a couple of good arcs to be able to follow. One is also Detective Knight, in the fact that the next episode basically is her. So she was able to arrest Claire, and tries to get Claire to tell her where Luke is so that he can start answering from this stuff. Obviously, Claire's not going to give him up. And she actually starts getting to a point where she's so out of control that she puts her hands on Claire and tries to basically put power back in her own hands. In case you can't tell, like 80% of the series is like, what do you do when you have this level of power? She gets pulled aside by her new captain, who's been assigned by the department. And we're not sure if she's a good guy or a bad guy. And then immediately put in to do counseling. So we actually have this interesting way of telling a story from her perspective as a therapy session within an interrogation room. And I love the fact that the counselor literally bounces like, so you're doing a counseling session in an interrogation room. Where else would we do it? We spend all this time in here. He's kind of right in a weird way. So we get to have this nice arc where she's coming to grips with the fact that she's had no control over any of this situation. Like she met Luke and hooked up with him, and that was probably the semblance of control she had in her life, and then everything went to hell. Cottonmouth died, Scarf died, everything fell apart around her, and most of it is centered around Luke Cage. So at that point, we get to see her kind of put those pieces together and realize that she needs to regain her composure if she's going to solve this problem. And then we get to have some really great moments with the therapist, but the best scene, at least as far as I'm concerned, was with the captain, where the captain is like, well, you serve the city. And the bottom line is that I don't care if you find Mariah to be a suspect. I don't care if you find this person and this person to be a suspect. Luke Cage is a problem, and he needs to be brought in. And immediately showing the car camera footage of Luke throwing officers around. Which, again, I saw it. I know why he did it. But it just doesn't look good to anybody. So at that point, Detective Knight has been tasked with bringing in Luke Cage. That is her responsibility. Okay, now that we're back from a magic cut, Let me get back into it. Detective Knight has now been tasked with hunting down Luke Cage. Regardless of who she thinks is a viable suspect for the murder of Cottonmouth, she needs to bring in Luke Cage. Kind of setting up the captain as being a very anti-hero person. Not anti-hero, but anti-hero. One of the people that would have absolutely agreed with the Sokovia Accords kind of thing. And so we have that nice aesthetic going in for Detective Knight, and it's a nice little arc for her to follow. The next one is, I want to say it follows Mariah, Shades, and Diamondback. And the reason it is because it's dealing with Mariah coming to grips with what she's done to Cottonmouth. Like, she is responsible for Cornell's murder. Which is, they also emphasize, like, she literally raised him, along with Mama Mabel. So she's feeling responsible, but at the same time, she's also kind of hardening into basically a new version of Mama Mabel. And it's funny because she's dealing with this internal conflict, and every time she sees a picture of Mabel, she's like, I'm not you. And she still has to say that. So you have Mariah going through the situation, and you also have Shades with her, and Shades is trying to get her to, for lack of a better term, man up. For lack of a better term, to take over Cornell's empire and start running it herself. But in turn, Shades is basically just trying to be the number one guy so that he can run it, because obviously he doesn't. Mariah's got the power broken behind her, but he can get the job done. So he's really, like, you kind of have this alternate agenda of he's trying to make this work for himself kind of thing. Maybe even to get out from under Diamondback. Who knows? That's kind of one of the hints that this series has been giving, is like, he works for Diamondback, but does he work for him willingly? Kind of thing. So you have Shades basically kind of reassembling Cornell's empire. And also we find out that he's been doing it behind Diamondback's back, for lack of a better term. While Diamondback was off dealing with Luke, Shades was doing all this. So we actually have a good character moment between him and Shades, where he's like, are you trying to actually take this out from under me? And Diamondback reasserts his own authority and says, nope, this is mine. And frankly, you're in trouble because you cost me a valuable asset in Cottonmouth. And with Mariah, we have her basically dealing with the death, but also trying to figure out, like, a way to get out. She doesn't want to run Cornell's empire. But by acting as a mob boss, she's basically looking for a way to get out. And it's actually an interesting way to be able to go about it. I have a feeling Shades would not have let her go regardless. But in the meantime, she's also kind of pushing the political angle. In the first episode after Cottonmouth dies, she's one of the people that pushes Luke Cage as the suspect, especially since the thing that the one girl said was, like, she says she saw Luke Cage commit murder kind of thing. And so at that point, she's saying, the police need to be out looking for Luke Cage. So she kind of sets that going. And then also one of the other big stories is, again, that dash cam footage. Is that dash cam? Is that the way it goes? That footage gets leaked on the internet. And Mariah's aide, her former political aide, gets access to it. And he's like, I should totally show this, because this might actually get you into major power brokering circles. Your political career may be over, but you may be running things after this. And so she basically kind of gives him a subtle inching to do it. And then she tries to get out of organized crime, because Cornell's empire basically fell into her lap. But when she tries to do that, Diamondback steps in and says, nope, this is all mine. And so's your empire, and so's your empire, and so's your empire. Starts killing off all of the major leaders of the crime families to basically assert his dominance. And then basically looks Mariah in the eye and goes, why shouldn't I kill you? And Mariah, basically to save her own skin, says, because I can help, because you and me both want vengeance on Luke Cage, and I know a way to be able to get that to happen. And basically kind of encouraging him to essentially do what Kingpin did in the first season, is like where he was trying to run things from behind the scenes, and then he eventually publicly started writing things. So we got to see like the public face of Wilson Fisk. She's basically proposing that Diamondback do the exact same thing. You know, you have this Judas bullet. Why don't you put that in the hands of the NYPD so that they can actually stop superheroes like this? Basically, kind of ensuing like possible all-out war in the streets of New York, which is a really great setup for like what could come next. Is Luke going to be like, if Luke heals, is he going to be able to handle the fact that the police are now armed to take him down? And so it already sets up for a lot of really great speculation and for the war that is to come. But that's pretty much all the events that have happened in episodes 8 and 9, and that's going to go ahead and do it for this video. So thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for enjoying these vlogs as much as you are, and I appreciate you guys being patient with me while I go through these episodes slowly. And then I will, of course, see you guys next time for the next little batch of episodes.